40 minutes from now, my herd hierarchy, I think it's the strongest we've had. There's some real teams here. This weekend, the best quarterback, starting with last Thursday, Brock Purdy over Geno, and last night, Josh over Aaron, the best quarterback won every single game this weekend. That's what we said going into this week. We said there's going to be sort of a separation between the haves and have-nots. The bad teams now know they're bad. Guys start bailing in locker rooms, although I don't think the 2-4 Jets will. I think they're going to be viable. But the best quarterback won every game this weekend. So if I want to go back to this game, take out the Hail Mary. You know, any star quarterback gets a few of those in his career. Even Aaron, the all-time leaders, you know, every 5 or 6 years he has a Hail Mary. Those are about 90% luck and breaks. Take that game out. There were 4 huge plays late in this game, and the Bills made all of them. The first play was late third quarter. The Bills secondary tied at 20. Aaron hits Garrett Wilson for the go-ahead touchdown. And Taylor Rapp, a very physical, often hurt because he's so physical, safety from Washington, bang, knocks the ball out. Big-time play, forces a field goal, and the Jets miss it. That was a touchdown, 27-20. Now it's still 20-20. Now we go. Second big play. Jets driving. It is a big 2nd and 16. This would have been a first down, and Taylor Rapp again blows the play up. Huge play. That forces, on this play, the interception by Teron Johnson that may be the closest thing to Ed Reed that I've seen in years. A beautiful interception. That sets up the fourth play. I'll watch the interception again. You can say that's the Taylor Rapp play. Then there is the interception. The fourth play, when the Bills get the ball back on a 3rd and 4, Josh Allen appears to call his own number and gets the first down. So Josh Allen, Teron Johnson, 2 Taylor Rapps. In the last half hour of real time to 40 minutes, there were 4 huge plays, and the Buffalo Bills, like the Kansas City Chiefs or Ravens in these big games, made all of them. Taylor Rapp, Teron Johnson, Josh Allen. Those are game-changing plays. Here is Josh Allen after.
Fighting through adversity, getting in at halftime, regrouping, saying let's just control, one play at a time. We didn't score as many points in that second half as I'd like, but found a way.
Okay, and again, you can blame the officials, but Denver, Aaron Rodgers was going for the lead and the win, missed a field goal. Minnesota going for the win, Aaron, bad pick. Buffalo, wide receiver slips, ball appears to be underthrown, great play by the defender. You can point fingers all you want, opportunities there, 3 straight weeks. So there were 4 crucial plays in that, and that's what Kansas City does. You hang around with Kansas City, and all of a sudden it's a big play by Chris Jones, a great play by somebody on the corner, and Mahomes has a run to pick up a first down. That is a Chiefs game. So, and Josh Allen, that kid, that kid is just, we are so lucky right now between Mahomes and Lamar and Josh Allen. These guys are all time. Mahomes the best I've ever seen. Lamar's the best running quarterback I've ever seen. And Josh may be the best pure size, arm, and talent and running I've ever seen together. So you got to make plays in these big games. And against Denver, Minnesota, and Buffalo, the New York Jets didn't. And last night, the Bills did. J-Mac with the news.
Okay. It's so weird because this was like a Bills clip, but it's got Aaron Rodgers gigantically behind him the entire time. And, and he's still talking about the New York Jets. And I really just want to focus on the Buffalo Bills. John Middlecoff said it best after this game on his podcast. If you guys don't watch that, I definitely recommend it. It's really great. It's on his YouTube channel. I think it's just John Middlecoff or whatever. He talked about Josh Allen, and he goes, if you're still questioning or if you don't think that Josh Allen is an elite quarterback, we have nothing to talk about. We're just not even on the same plane together. And you guys know me for sure that I am always banging on the Josh Allen drum. And it's why, it's so important to look at that game itself and see more than just a box score. Because again, we see like 215, 2 touchdowns, and we're like, what's so fancy about that, right? And it's just like the way Josh Allen plays, some of the big key moments, some of the throws he made. He's just It's just unreal, honestly, what he does. They got away from the run game in the especially in the second half, which was frustrating. Now, John Minikoff did talk about how he thinks it was because of the penalties. He really railed on all of the penalties and all of those issues. I'm not going to do that. The penalties were crazy. I live streamed that game, and we were all talking about it like these penalties are insane. We just kept counting them, and it was so obviously disruptive. And John, that's what John was saying, why he thinks they got away from the run game, because they had all these crazy penalties, and so they had second and long, third and long, and so it forces you to get away from the run game. But that first half, they were really leaning on it, and that is what you want to see out of the Buffalo Bills. I get it in terms of what Colin is kind of saying about the Chiefs and all of that, in terms of, right, the game is close, but then they step up and make a play, which I can appreciate, especially considering how the game looked versus the Texans last week and the week before versus the Ravens. I think if you're a Bills fan, you're kind of conflicted. If this game was 23-20 and they found a way to win, but it didn't involve an insane amount of penalties, right? Bizarre roughing the passer type stuff, and maybe all the bad calls balanced out. It's hard to say, honestly, but where you had bizarre penalties, because I know the Bills were on the positive end of that too, to some degree. Some of the pass interference calls as well. You also had like missed field goals, which again, I know, I think the Bills had a missed field goal and a missed extra point, and the Jets had 2 missed field goals, if memory serves me correctly. So it's just different. If the game didn't involve all of those things, and the score was still 20-20, and the Bills found a way to win and get over the hump and be 23-20, I think I'd feel a little bit better about it. But because it was such a weird, ugly game, and it was still that close, I think that, and again, the Hail Mary, I know all of those things account for it. I do. I get it. But I just think, like, again, I'm trying to evaluate the Bills through the lens of, are they a Super Bowl contender? Right? That is really what my agenda is when I'm looking at Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, right? Because that is the expectations that I have for Josh Allen and this team. It's, can you compete for a Super Bowl? So that's why it's like, I'll lock in, rather than just being like, oh, they got a good, hard, tough win. It's like, okay, they got a good, hard, tough win, but why was it hard, right? Kansas City does that when they're not at their best. They've done that for the last year and a half now, because they haven't been at their best offensively. They didn't have to rely on that years ago when they were a significantly better team and weren't so defensive reliant. Now, I mean, if you're a Bills fan too, I wonder how you feel about Devontae going to the Jets. I mean, if you think about it, this game being this close, if the Jets had Devontae, would that have been the difference maker to make the Bills? Not like, I feel as though that the Bills should have tried to maybe get Devontae or look for an Amari Cooper or someone to kind of potentially upgrade. I think this team right now still has work to do. I still think that they're a top team in the NFL. I don't know how many teams have really pulled away, like Colin keeps trying to say, like, for instance, the Kansas City Chiefs they're a tier of their own, and I don't feel that way at all. Their coaching absolutely, and so that's where you can make the argument that puts them in that next tier. But in terms of the actual play and production and what they're doing on the field, I do not see them on it in a tier of their own. So again, what it all boils down to is, can you beat the Chiefs in the playoffs? Can you beat the Texans in the playoffs? Can you beat the Ravens in the playoffs? Right? Like, that's really ultimately what this all gets boiled down to. And I just think you're going to have to play cleaner ball in order to beat the Ravens, in order to beat the Chiefs, in order to beat the Texans, right? You obviously had a chance to beat the Texans, haven't played the Chiefs yet, and the Ravens rolled you. Now, you could chalk up that Ravens game up to something that's just like, hey, that was just one of those games. The game got out of control quickly, and once that happens in football, it can just kind of continue to go that route, right? So maybe there's not too much to learn from that game. But it does feel like, to me personally, if the Bills want to truly be Super Bowl contenders this season, right, and truly fight for it, I feel as though they have to make a move or two by the trade deadline to really kind of separate themselves. Again, not unlike what we're seeing the Jets doing now with Devontae, right? just taking that extra next step. And I talk about this all the time because I think it's just such a great example. We see this with so many teams do this. You see this in basketball, baseball, football. It's always like that move or two that's made during the season that they then, when they win the Super Bowl, the World Series, the NBA Finals, they're always like, wow, how big was that move, back in October or whatever, like they always talk about it. It always happens. And we saw this, and the best example of this in football is really what the Rams did, how they went out and got Von Miller. They got OBJ in the middle of the season. That was the difference maker. If they don't make those moves, they do not win the Super Bowl. They do not win the Super Bowl. I mean, no question about it. Right? So it's like saying that you need to make a move. It's not saying like your team's just bad or you have no chance. It's just saying like, no, like you got to take it to the next step. The Bills have got this team, have gotten to the 20-yard line. They need a push now to get into the end zone. That's just the way I see it personally. And so it's just like and again, I don't know what the whole situation is with their salary cap and all of that. If they're in a position to be able to do that, or if they have to just be really, really strategic about it. But to me, it just feels like they got to make that move. I don't know exactly what it is. All right, I'm not going to pretend to be a GM here, but it does feel like if they can just make a really smart move or two, then they could get over that hump. They could be like, okay, we can do this now, right? If they don't, it just feels like it's still going to be up for a prayer, right? It's going to be like, all right, well, can Josh Allen throw for 4 touchdowns and rush for 80, right? Like, it just feels like it's still going to be very reliant on Josh Allen, very reliant on being able to pick up some pieces like a missed field goal, whatever it may be. Still at the mercy of a bad penalty here or a bad penalty there, a missed holding call there, a missed face mask, whatever it may be. And I just feel as though if they make some moves, they could become a little bit more resilient to those issues, and that would be the difference maker against, say, the Texans, the Chiefs, and again, the Ravens. You would have to just kind of have a rematch with to see how well they fare with each other. And I'm trying to think if there's any other real AFC teams that would really be legitimate, competition. I mean, again, who knows what happens with the Jets once they get Devontae. But yeah, those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Buffalo Bills win over the Jets? How Josh Allen played? Any other big takeaways? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.